Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to Inner Drive, the channel where we dive deep into the ideas that completely rewire how you see the world. If you want to stay locked in on content that actually makes you think, hit that subscribe button right now. Okay, so today we are unpacking something absolutely wild. Have you ever just looked around and felt like you don't belong here? Like human beings are somehow the odd ones out on planet Earth? We're going to explore a theory today that sounds straight out of a late-night sci-fi movie, but no cap, it is actually rooted in some of the most mind-bending, legitimate biology you will ever hear. We're talking about a literal glitch in the human matrix. Let's get into it.
So, Chapter 1. I want you to literally ask yourself this question right now. Are humans actually from outer space? I know, it sounds crazy, but philosophers and high-level scientists have actually debated this for decades because of something called the anthropogenic paradox. Basically, this is the profound state of biological and psychological dissonance humans experience. Just think about it for a second. Look at literally the rest of nature. Every other animal out there has the seamless, perfect main character energy in their specific ecosystem, right? Fish have gills specifically optimized for extracting oxygen from water. Birds have these incredibly lightweight, hollow bones built for flight. Arctic mammals have insanely high-density fur so they don't freeze. They are perfectly optimized for their servers. And then, there's us. We have systemic vulnerabilities. We get terrible chronic back pain just from standing around. We go outside and literally get cooked by our own sun. Our immune systems totally freak out and glitch over some dust or pollen. We just do not biologically fit with the rest of the natural world. Honestly, sometimes it feels like we were just dropped here by mistake on the wrong map.
And look, this feeling of not belonging isn't just some late-night deep web internet lore. It actually goes way, way back in the scientific community. Enter Chapter 2, Directed Panspermia. This is the actual scientific hypothesis that organisms were deliberately transmitted to Earth by intelligent beings from another planet. And get this wasn't just pitched by some random guy wearing a tinfoil hat in his basement. In 1973, Francis Crick, the exact same Francis Crick who literally won a Nobel Prize for co-discovering the double helix structure of DNA, along with the massive chemist Leslie Orgel, seriously hypothesized this. They argued that a highly advanced extraterrestrial civilization, maybe one that was facing its own extinction, could have sent primitive life forms, like bacteria or spores, to Earth on uncrewed spaceships. They basically figured that interstellar travel takes way too long for the aliens themselves to physically come here, so they just seeded our planet instead. It's this massive, mathematically weighed alternative to the idea that life just randomly sparked out of nowhere in Earth's primordial soup.
Taking that vibe to the absolute extreme, an ecologist named Dr. Ellis Silver dropped his postulational work claiming to have actual proof that we are permanently out of sync with Earth's environment. He points to our structural failures. Like, seriously, why do so many of us have horrible, chronic, bad backs and knee pain by the time we hit our 20s? Silver argues our bodies are actually built for a planet with a lower gravity. And the sun thing, why do we get severe sunburns when pretty much no other animal on Earth has that problem? Why do we have hypersensitive allergies to the plants that naturally grow here? And perhaps the biggest, most glaring red flag of all, our chronic environmental destruction. Silver calls this the planetary manager problem. We act like incredibly toxic bad roommates, constantly destroying the environment because, according to this wild theory, we aren't wired for this planet. We're like a prototype planetary manager that got dropped onto Earth without the global perspective software update.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. While the alien theory is a super fun, crazy thought experiment to throw around, the hard science actually points to something entirely different, but arguably just as mind-blowing. Welcome to Chapter 3, the reality of evolutionary mismatch. Why our biology is lagging behind our world. Let's break down exactly how this works. We are 99% genetically identical to chimpanzees, guys. Our biochemistry is heavily tied to this exact planet. We literally evolved highly specific metabolic pathways over millions of years just to be able to digest terrestrial plants. Like, your body knows exactly how to process an avocado. We aren't aliens, but we are experiencing a state of extreme biological disequilibrium. Evolutionary mismatch happens when a trait that evolved and was perfectly fine in your ancestral environment, which scientists call E1, gets forcefully placed into a brand new novel environment, or E2. In your E1 environment, your traits were adaptive, meaning they kept you alive, or at the very least, they were neutral. But when the environment suddenly shifts to E2, those exact same biological traits become completely harmful to your fitness and well-being. Think about it like a video game. It's like you spent 300,000 hours grinding to build the ultimate maxed-out loadout for a water level. You're dominating, but then the game devs suddenly drop a patch, the game glitches, and teleports you into a desert map. Your heavy water gear is suddenly dragging you down and getting you eliminated. That is the literal core of evolutionary mismatch. If you need hard proof of how devastating this is, look at Chapter 4 and this brilliant analogy from the scientific literature, the fatal attraction. Picture this. There are these adult aquatic insects that naturally fly around looking for bodies of water to lay their eggs in. For millions and millions of years, their E1 environment. They relied on polarized light bouncing off the surface of lakes and rivers as their visual cue. It was a flawless, perfect adaptation. But then humans speedran the tech tree and introduced E2. Artificial reflective surfaces, like massive fields of solar panels and giant glass skyscrapers. To these bugs, a solar panel reflects way more polarized light than a lake ever could. It acts as this massive, irresistible superstimulus. So they fly down, lay their eggs on a burning hot piece of tech glass, and completely wipe out their entire genetic lineage in one go. A trait that kept them alive for millions of years literally became a fatal trap overnight, all because the environment changed faster than they could adapt.
And guys, this mismatch isn't just happening outside in the world. It is actively happening inside our own bodies right now. Chapter 5, The Old Friend's Immune Mismatch, and Why We Are Desperately Missing Our Microscopic Companions.
Back in 2003, a researcher named Graham Rook proposed something absolutely groundbreaking about how our immune systems actually work. Listen to this quote from him. Humans became so dependent on them that their immune systems can neither develop nor function properly without them. Who is he talking about? He's talking about our microscopic old friends. You see, for millions of years as hunter-gatherers, we co-evolved alongside totally harmless environmental microbes in the dirt, the water, and our food. We are not just individual humans, we are literal walking ecosystems. Fun fact, we have vastly more microbial DNA inside us than actual human genes. Our immune systems basically learn to rely on these ancient bugs as sparring partners to learn how to chill out, regulate themselves, and not overreact.
But here is where the glitch gets crazy. People used to think we just needed exposure to regular childhood sicknesses to build up a strong immunity. That was called the old hygiene hypothesis. But Rook completely clarified that the vital microbes we need aren't modern crowd infections like the measles or the flu. Those are completely new. They only popped up in the last 10,000 years after the agricultural revolution, when humans stopped roaming and started living in super dense, cramped cities with livestock. No, our immune system doesn't need the flu. It desperately needs those ancient, harmless hunter-gatherer microbes. But because of modern sanitation, antibacterial soaps, heavily processed food, and a total lack of biodiversity in our concrete cities, we have basically ghosted our old friends. We scrubbed our modern world so completely clean that our immune systems are now totally bored and desperate for a fight. So what do? They start attacking harmless things. Pollen, peanuts, even our own healthy cells. That is why autoimmune diseases and allergies are skyrocketing.
Okay, so our immune system is clearly glitching out. But what about our brains? That brings us to Chapter 6, Technological and Psychological Mismatch, the stark, uncomfortable reality of running savanna wiring in a hyper-digital world.
We always thought technology was supposed to be the ultimate evolutionary match, right? Like it was going to solve all our problems and make life perfectly easy. But prolonged, unchecked use, it inevitably leads to massive mismatch. Look at this timeline. It perfectly, flawlessly illustrates the insane pace of human change. For roughly 300,000 years, we were roaming hunter-gatherers. That is a massive, massive chunk of time for our biology to slowly, carefully adapt to the environment. Then, boom, 12,000 years ago, which is only about 400 human generations, we hit the agricultural revolution. In evolutionary time, that is barely a blip. But the digital revolution, the internet, smartphones, that happened in literally one generation. Think about that. Biological adaptation takes hundreds, sometimes thousands of generations to actually catch up, but our entire tech environment just flipped upside down overnight. We are walking around running extremely old, highly sensitive ancestral hardware on a brand new, highly stressful, constantly pinging digital OS.
And honestly, that is exactly why you feel so stressed out all the time. As the modern psychology research points out, first-world problems aren't trivial. They feel overwhelming precisely because we never evolved to handle them. I want you to think of your 5 biggest stressors right now. An email from your boss, a weird text, doom scrolling the news. Would a hunter-gatherer 300,000 years ago have faced literally any of them? Obviously not. Our brains are savanna-wired. We are biologically optimized for short-term, immediate physical threats. Like a tiger jumps out, you run, the stress ends. We are completely unequipped to handle a digital landscape where toxic emotions spread virally 24/7. It's basically psychological climate change. We tried to build smart homes to solve all our problems, but now we just live in these overloaded, internet-connected anxiety boxes that hackers can breach from across the globe. We simply never evolved for this level of constant, low-grade, inescapable chronic stress.
If you really want to see what happens when all of this mismatch, the physical, the environmental, the psychological, collides head-on with biology, look no further than Chapter 7, our case study, Generation X Women. This is the ultimate real-world test of evolutionary mismatch.
Born roughly between 1965 and 1980, Gen X women are literally the very first cohort in the entire history of humanity to spend their complete adult lives totally immersed in this industrialized, hyper-digitized, fully mismatched modern environment. And the psychosocial load they are forced to carry is absolutely intense. We're talking about sustained role strain and severe time poverty. They are managing what sociologists call gendered invisible workloads. That means doing all the anticipatory planning, the scheduling, and the heavy emotional regulation for everyone around them. They are famously known as the sandwich generation, meaning they are simultaneously caring for dependent children and aging parents, often because of delayed childbearing. And on top of all that, they are navigating peak career demands. For women with genetic susceptibilities, like polycystic ovary syndrome, they're even more biologically vulnerable because they already deal with reduced insulin sensitivity and higher baseline inflammation. Guys, this isn't just some social issue to shrug off. This is a heavy, cumulative, crushing biological burden. This is chronic stress system saturation. Chapter 8. Look at this evolutionary mismatch integrative model on the screen. It shows exactly, scientifically, how this biological crash happens. You start up there at the top left with the baseline evolutionary mismatch, eating modern ultra-processed diets, sitting at a desk under artificial light all day, environmental toxins, disrupted circadian sleep cycles, and a totally wrecked microbiome. Then you stack on that unique Gen X psychosocial load we just talked about. Over decades, this creates what scientists call an allostatic load. Basically, the body is constantly fighting a 24/7 war to maintain internal stability, and it is slowly but surely draining all of its physiological reserves. For years, maybe decades, Gen X women just power through it. Their bodies adapt, they overcompensate, they keep grinding. But then midlife hits, acting as a massive, unavoidable amplifier. Step 1. That lifelong exposome load has fully accumulated. Step 2. The perfectly natural midlife transition begins, and ovarian hormones, specifically estrogen, start to decline. Step 3. Here is the catch. Because estrogen previously acted as a shield, helping to protect metabolism and mitochondrial function, its natural decline means the body's stress systems finally hit total saturation. There's no shield left. Step 4. Boom! The previously compensated adaptive reserves fail. The whole system breaks down. It's like trying to run your phone on 1% battery while rendering a 4K video. It's not just menopause, it is a lifetime of intense evolutionary mismatch being aggressively unmasked by a perfectly normal hormonal shift.
The end result of all this is the Gen X clinical phenotype. Because the body is so incredibly overwhelmed by the mismatch, it literally downshifts to survive. It genuinely thinks it's in a state of severe energetic scarcity or famine, so it locks down and conserves energy. You get metabolic inflexibility, which means the body basically forgets how to burn fat and relies purely on quick glucose. You see low-grade chronic inflammation, heavily driven by a leaky gut and metabolic endotoxemia. You get severe cognitive dysfunction, which is famously known as brain fog, because there's a literal cerebral metabolic energy mismatch happening in the brain. You have mitochondrial, redox stress, and an increase in central adiposity, or belly fat, to store energy for the famine. These aren't just isolated, annoying complaints to be brushed off by doctors. This is a unified, total system-level breakdown driven entirely by the fact that our ancient biology is fighting an unwinnable war against the modern world.
And that brings us full circle to Chapter 9. We built an alien world. The anthropogenic paradox solved. Remember that weird, unshakable feeling we started this whole explainer with? That feeling that we just don't belong here? That maybe we must be aliens? Well, we can finally reframe those supposed alien flaws. They aren't glitches from outer space. They are purely terrestrial evolutionary trade-offs that have just violently collided with our brand new modern lifestyles. Our chronic back and knee pain? That's just the mechanical tax we pay for the absolute superpower of bipedalism and massive brain growth. Our vulnerability to getting severe sunburns? That is simply the byproduct of a hyper-efficient, hairless cooling system, sweating, that allowed our ancestors to outrun prey and dominate the African heat without overheating.
And our immunological chaos, our hypersensitive allergies, that's just the unfortunate cost of a cultural hygiene revolution that vastly outpaced our immune system's desperate biological need for our old friends.
Chapter 10, the finale. Guys, we are deeply, biologically, fundamentally tied to this planet. Every single cell in our bodies proves it. But we evolved to be the ultimate planetary managers, and our cultural and technological evolution granted us the literal power of gods way, way before our slow biological evolution ever granted us the wisdom to use it properly. So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on today. We aren't aliens on Earth, but have we made Earth alien to us? Let that sink in. If this completely shifted your perspective, do me a favor, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and make sure you subscribe to Inner Drive so you stay locked in for more deep dives. Stay curious, guys. Catch you in the next one.